Hello, welcome to BRMC, as you know, Broadcast Radio Masterclass, and this is your course module 2. My name is Nelly and I'm your instructor for this module. I'll be taking you through this course. You and I will also get to discuss on WhatsApp whatever questions you have. I will be addressing them, and in any way that you would like to have a step-by-step assistance with this particular module, that is also what I'm here for. So let's begin. For the show prep, you're going to have to work with your laptop and follow the simple basic instructions. But this is a rather technical aspect of the module and a rather technical aspect of this online training. But first of all, let me welcome you to the online training. Thank you for taking a chance to experiment with us this way. And in time, we'll all be able to gather again and have our day-to-day classes. However, if you have a laptop or a smartphone, something in which you can write a script and structure your script, this will also be good for you for this very class. So let's begin. On your course module, you will see that we begin by acknowledging the earlier module where you had to address the course format and how far that sounds when you learn your phonetics and how to introduce your radio station and introduce the beginning of your show. But the entire body of your show, of that particular program, is the show prep. So what is a show prep? A show prep is the beginning, it is the end, it is the entire playbook for your work. Most radio stations have a rather basic idea of a show prep, which means that they have what most of us who are already working in radio stations know as a schedule, where you have a particular belt and then every single article or aspect of that belt for the hours that it runs are already on paper. That's your schedule. Your schedule is a form of a radio station show prep prepared for you. However, you have to work on a show prep for yourself. You have to be able to prepare something for your speech, for your entire delivery on air. To do this, we're going to work with what we have to understand why we need a show prep. Now, the worst attitude towards a show prep is to think that you can just sit and talk and say whatever you had in mind, or maybe take a look at the newspaper article and then you can present exactly what's in that newspaper article just by looking at it. That is the worst attitude you can have for a show prep, because it's a lot more than that. A show prep is never easy without preparation. In fact, when you're well prepared, you sound a lot easier and you flow a lot better when you're well prepared. You know the saying, only the best make it look easy, is because the best get to apply preparation over preparation for a simple show. Let's narrow our show, an example for our show today, let's narrow it all to, say, the first hour of your belt. As you know, here in Nigeria, the belts can run 4 hours, 5 hours, or 3 hours. But in your case, let's pick an hour. If you are an independent producer and you're presenting a content of, say, an hour or 30 minutes, this will also be able to help you. We have just a few moments for this particular video. However, the steps we'll address can help you through the hour as well. Let's start with the steps to a very good show prep. Now, here are the steps to a very good show prep. Focus on the basics. What are the basics? What most of us have learned in school if you studied journalism in school, or the ones you learn right now. The W's, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, and of course, the how. But focus on the W's for a reason. This is where you get to tell the story of your show prep. Always start with the what and why. What? Because you have to tell people what exactly it is you want to discuss on your show prep. Why? Well, this is because you have to now apply your own critical thoughts to the story. What exactly is the story, and why did this story happen? Why does this story matter to your audience? Why should they care? Why should they care that something in the news is important to you and you think is important to them? These are the things you have to address in your show prep. Also, you have to live in the moment, be spontaneous. But spontaneity doesn't mean that you totally ignore the steps and the professionalism that should go with your show prep. What spontaneity is telling you is that the news is immediate. So at the very moment, a prep that you could have worked on all night, by morning, something else could have been added to it, or perhaps it has even become stale. So what's to happen? How do you make it fresh? How do you make it new and immediate? And there is absolutely nothing wrong with coming on air with a news story that happened yesterday, but the context, hence the why, is still very relevant to your conversation for that day. Also, know your audience. Why should they care? Know the people you're talking to. How does this conversation affect your radio consumer? Why exactly should they come to you for something that they can read in a news journal, for something that they can process in some other place? Why should they come to you? What are the things that matter to them? What brings them your way? Now share your content idea with someone else. It's a great idea. This topic is what everyone is discussing, but why should this particular topic be so good for you to present? If you understand the entire steps have been going with whys, the reason is because, and I know we have a Zoom class much later where we'll spend a longer time discussing all of these, and you have your coursework, which is what I'm running by right now. But the reason for the whys are simply this. If you can answer why any step is relevant, then you have already started to communicate with your audience. If you can answer why they should listen, why they should know this situation, why in the moment you need to make a step from what you already planned to something that needs your attention, to an extension of that program, then you know already that you're communicating with your audience. Now, another thing you can do is, apart from sharing your content idea, is to probably find a friend who you converse with. So you might have someone in radio who you could approach and say, okay, here's my prep, this is the topic I want to talk about, this is the angle in which I'm looking at this topic. And in sharing it, they can come up with angles in different ways that you haven't exactly seen. However, if you're talking with someone who is just a friend, you're getting a perspective from a listener's view, because this is not someone who is probably a professional or working in the same industry as you, might not be thinking about audience engagement and audience numbers, but they're giving you a perspective that you might be able to get from a listener, from someone who is not otherwise invested in presenting this content. Now let's talk about you cross-checking. It's what we like to call the air check. And cross-checking isn't just dotting your dotting your I's and crossing your T's. Cross-checking in this case is asking basic questions, and here are the questions. Is this relevant? Is this topic relevant? Is this angle relevant? Do I care? Does the listener care? Now, how do I get them to care? What will I do if the topic gets boring? I'll help you answer that one. Live in the moment. Be as spontaneous as you can. And do I have a backup if things go wrong? I'm sorry to say, but you might have to do a double prep every day. There is always an aspect to a conversation that you haven't as yet explored. That's your backup. On the Zoom class, we'll discuss the linking of all of these backups in a moment. However, let's take another step. Quickly, how to show that your show prep is ready. So you've asked yourself all of these questions. How do you know that your show prep is ready? It's simple. Prepare what you need. Be certain that your show prep is ready to be delivered on the air by certain steps like preparation. No other way to express it, but prepare. Prepare what you need. Look at it and say, is my news story correct? Is it factual? Is it unbiased? And is it progressing as well? Because remember, if you have a progressing story, it might need all of your spontaneous chops when you're on air. Also, your music, your bed, your guest, who is coming on the show with you? How is it going to sound? What's the atmosphere that you want? Now, for normal radio stations, we associate beds, which is a music that plays right, on the background when the presenter is speaking. That's where the music plays. It's nice, it's smooth. Sometimes you hear it, sometimes you are not very sure what you're hearing. It all depends on how loud it is. Sometimes it's also an intro music. It flows directly before the presenter speaks. Yet, if you had a hip-hop bed, for instance, or a very bouncy rock music that plays before you come on, and you want to talk about rape, or you want to talk about the death of a person, does that music present the same atmosphere as the rest of what you want to discuss? Maybe it's true, maybe it's yes, maybe no, but you see, this is your show prep. You need to think about those little things that create the atmosphere of your show. Keep your content in moderation. You have a lot to say, but your listener doesn't have all day. Just like I know you don't. So let's keep this in moderation and keep moving on to research. Research everything. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must do a qualitative or quantitative research all the time. Read and ask the whys. Why is this way? You read up on that why, you ask the next why, and you keep on going. It is not because all of these things are coming on air with you. If you notice, we're not discussing presentation, we're discussing prepping, show prep. Read and know. Research everything and concentrate. Focus on your topic. Your topic must interest you when you're discussing it. Then transform your language. You have to be able to write as you speak. Wazobia FM does this very well. And most indigenous language stations in Nigeria do this extremely well. It doesn't matter what language you got your information from, but your script as you're writing should be as you speak. Write as you want people to hear you. That way, if you reference your script on air, you are sounding on paper as you speak. Now internalize. Go through your prep, understand it, own it, know your prep, so that when you're speaking about it, it comes naturally. Poorly delivered content, no matter how good that content is still bad content. So practice and do your air check. Air check is a totally different session, but however, let's point out that air check is after you have performed your work, after your show is done, you look back at your show to analyze where you must have gone wrong and what you actually need to fix. Now bring your show prep to life. To bring your show prep to existence, you have to find lots of samples of radio show prep. It's all over there. It's on the internet, it's on radio, and in different ways. Some presenters like to have their show prep in bullets. This is not exactly the scripts they're submitting, it's a script that guides them on the air. For some others, it's some sort of diagram that you probably can't even understand, but that's how it works. And for some, it's written proper script. This is different from the scripting that you, your producer, and you, if you're lucky to have a producer in this country, would deliver, of course, to your head of programs or whoever gets to collate all of the show preps and decide how each show for each week, looks. Now, you need something else for your show prep. All I've been doing is tell you steps, and I never told you what to put in these steps. What you need inside of your show prep is content. What is your content about? People know content simply as what you'll be talking about, what you'll be discussing, what you'll be trading. So what's your content about? Once again, you have to know your audience, you have to know your listener. What would my listener want to hear today? It's a rainy day in Lagos. The numbers of coronavirus cases still growing. Also in Lagos, there is an online campaign and really a national campaign going on against rape in Nigeria. I still live in Lagos, and I can watch on TV and see online that there is a massive anti-racism protest in America, and not just America, around the world. I live in Lagos, but everything is happening. In all of these information we gather, the ones I've just mentioned, which one matters the most to your listener? Who is your listener? What does your listener do? Is your listener a young teacher, a young worker who hasn't gone back to work in how many months since the lockdown was announced? Is your listener a student who can't wait to leave home because he's had enough of mommy and daddy? Is that your listener? Know your listener. Because when you know your listener, every other thing comes to you easy. You get to know the trending topics, the news stories. You can choose your right guests, your music, your jingles, and on and on. You can position everything else to what your listener wants to know. Now, I know that this is not enough time to give you the steps and break down the articles as you would want them. WhatsApp is available to us to ask your questions. I have a lot more to tell you. This is so in-depth, it's not enough to do on a video that runs in minutes. But here we are, having this conversation, and this is just a start. I'm welcoming you again to this particular week, and I'm excited that you're joining us in this class. Zoom will be amazing. But before we get to that, let's talk on WhatsApp. Remember your exercises, send them all on WhatsApp and ask your questions, and I'll be there to answer them.